Hello, and welcome to the Power of We podcast. I am your host, Nisa Brown Springman, and the founder of Ignite Your Life. Ignite is a women's holistic health, fitness, and lifestyle community. And for the past 17 years, I have had the honor, privilege, and blessing of being the recipient of the wisdom, strength, knowledge, encouragement, and inspiration that comes from being part of this incredible community. And I want you in on that. In Ignite, this is what we call the power of we. The power of we is the philosophy that Ignite is built upon, which is that two is better than one, and that God created us for community and to do life together. In this podcast, I will have conversations with a wide range of women over a wide range of topics that will provide you with wisdom, knowledge, inspiration, and encouragement. So get ready to be empowered, y'all, because here we go. Hello, and welcome to the Power of We podcast. I'm so excited you're here, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my new friend, Tracie Reichel. Okay, Tracie, am I saying your last name the right way? Reichel.
Yes, it is. Okay. Perfect.
The town I grew up in was Riesel, and I have to tell myself that yours is opposite, Reichel versus anyway, that's the little games I play in my brain to help me remember. Okay, you guys, Tracie Reichel is an Ignite member in Austin, and she's also a functional health coach. And when I first found this out, I was like, ooh, I got to talk to Tracie and learn all about what she knows and how she helps people. And then the more I talked to her, the more interested, well, I'm not sure that I talked to you a ton, but what I gathered from you, Tracie, is your passion. And I am attracted to passionate people. I love listening and learning from passionate people. And you are a very passionate person, and you have quite the story to share with us about your your health history, and then your health history, but then also how you help people, but then you're extra passionate about circadian rhythm. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because it is really, really, really important, and it's foundational to our health. So first things first, Tracie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us about your family, anything you want to share.
Well, I grew up in Dallas, so the first 18 years of my life, I lived there. And my husband, I was thinking about it, this May, it'll be 20 years that we've been married. Yeah. So the funny thing is we got married a month before he was starting orthopedic surgery residency. And that was back in the day where they worked like 100 hours per week. And so that was kind of a wild ride. And I was thinking about it, like within the first month of getting married, he came home and I had rescued a dog. Like, you don't do that. And it just shows like the type of guy he's been the whole time. Like he always just wants me to be happy. And so, more recently I wanted goats, and I did ask this time, but we got some goats. So like, he's always supporting my dream. So it's been 20 years. It's been great. I have 3 daughters. My oldest is a junior in high school. My middle daughter is a freshman, and then my youngest is finishing up elementary school. So it's so much fun.
So you are girl mom extraordinaire, and your husband is girl dad.
He's such a champ. He handles it so well too. Like when we found out my oldest was a girl, he just went quiet in the sonogram, and then ever since that day, he's never like blinked twice. It's always like girl, girl, girl. Our dog's a girl. Our goat's a girl.
Do you have any sisters?
He was an only child.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. This is big. Yeah. Well, congratulations on being married almost 20 years. Russell and I will have our 20th anniversary in August, and I feel very similar about him as you spoke of your husband. What's his name?
Lee.
It's really amazing to be supported by your spouse, who's all into your dreams and your visions and your passions. And I feel the same way, and I feel so blessed because of that. So kudos to our hubbies.
Right.
Definitely. To all the hubbies out there who support their wives unconditionally, and to the wives who support their husbands unconditionally too.
It's definitely fun. It's been a long ride with his training and stuff. So it's been a fun team though.
Yep. It is all about teamwork. Okay. So currently you live in Austin.
Yes.
Yes. And how long have you lived in Austin?
We have been here 8 years. So I grew up in the same house my whole life, and then I went to college and grad school in Austin, and then the year before we got married, I lived in upstate New York, and we were dating, so we wanted to see if that was going to work. So I moved from there to Austin, then we moved to Houston, and then we moved to Seattle for a year, back to Houston, to Minnesota, and then we moved to Austin. So it's like always coming back to Texas.
Texas just keeps pulling you back.
Thankfully, my husband loves the hot weather. Like, he doesn't want to go back to snow. I mean, his family's amazing, so that that was a challenge to not be up near them, but he loves the hot weather, so that worked out for me.
That's a first. I don't know that I've ever, especially Texas hot, because that's a hot on a whole other kind of level.
It's definitely a different level. But there's no shoveling snow here, so he really appreciates that.
Can't shovel sunshine. I've heard people say that. And my husband was the same way. He's from Maryland. And so they don't get like super, 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 like cold snow, but enough to where he's like, no, you can't shovel sunshine. And I'll take sunshine any day over snow.
Yes.
That amount. So, all right. Sunshine, something we're going to discuss. Sunlight in today's conversation. Okay. So again, your passion is super contagious, and I would imagine you're just a passionate person in general. However, I would also imagine that your health journey has made you extra passionate about health and how to advocate for yourself and how to heal your body and what all that entails. And so I'm just so excited to have you share. So can you start off? So you are a functional medicine health coach, and you have a business called Morning Light Mamas. Yes. Okay. Awesome. And you mentioned goats. Y'all, Tracie has goats, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But that's part of your story. And so can you backtrack and just start from the very beginning, and tell us about your health journey?
Yeah. So, I've had a lot of experience with the medical field growing up. When I was in 6th grade, I started having these stomach aches, and, my mom tried everything that was available at the time. But, at the time, you just kind of had to do what the doctor said, like what was available. And, after my endoscopies, they would keep showing that I had inflammation of my stomach. And so the treatment they thought was to put me on stomach acid reducing medicines, PPIs. So that starting in 6th grade was kind of what I did. The ironic thing is those medications, you're only supposed to be on them for like 2 weeks.
And 6th grade's this was 1990, right? Yeah. I'm just wanting to put a year to it just so we can see the progression. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. And, obviously I love doctors. I married one, but, they do the best they can with their little time frame that they have. And, and my mom was trying all the things we could back then. She just knew I was in suffering. And so I ended up being on these medications. Fast forward, I was on them for 25 years. You're not supposed to take them for more than 2 weeks. And then we found out, just recently, probably within the last 2 years, that my stomach problem was an autoimmune condition. And so my stomach was an inflammation in itself. It was attacking the cells, the parietal cells that make stomach acid. So I was actually low on stomach acid. So I was taking these medications that were making my digestion harder. These medications aren't harmless, kind of like what they say. And so in the reality, it's kind of funny that wasn't the right treatment. But at the time, that was, kind of standard treatment. And so, I had stomach issues growing up, and my freshman year of college, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So it's a disease of your thyroid, and low iron. So I was iron deficient. And so
can you tell us, what were some of your symptoms back then? So you had really bad stomach stuff.
Yes.
And did they ever get better as you took these medications, or maybe got better for a minute and it just kind of
it wasn't the right treatment. So there was really no relieving it, but for whatever reason, we just kept doing it, so it didn't really make a difference, didn't make it worse. And so we just continued. So that was unfortunate. But so now I'm like, yes, that's why it's also made me passionate. I'm like, do you really understand what's going on with your body? Do you know like what this treatment does? Like some treatments, and I'm on treatments, like some are necessary, but what are the consequences of those treatments, or how can you support yourself through it? So that's kind of been, an ongoing thing for me just from my own experience. And
okay, so let me ask you, so in the 6th grade, when you started developing those stomach issues, what were those? Can you share that?
What I remember is mostly just my stomach hurt. It burned a lot. And so it's just a lot of burning. And when you think about stomach acid, like that makes sense. But your stomach is supposed to have acid. Like that's how you digest food. It's got these different features to protect itself. And hopefully when in a healthy stomach regenerates so that you don't feel but usually when people feel the burn, it's because it's coming up into your esophagus. Like your stomach is designed to handle acid, whereas your esophagus isn't. And that's usually when people feel heartburn. And so some people take these acid-reducing medications if you have an ulcer to give it a little brief window to heal itself. But since mine was an autoimmune condition, it wasn't healing itself.
And you didn't realize it was autoimmune until your freshman year in college?
No, actually, I didn't realize that my stomach was autoimmune until like 2 years ago.
Oh, dang.
Yes.
Okay. So then fast forward, your stomach, 6th grade through middle school, high school, it was all about the same.
Yes.
And then you went to college and you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's?
Yes. So that one presented a little bit differently. In college, you're tired. Maybe you're not like best lifestyle choices. But physical activity was always important to me. And so I was actually teaching aerobics at UT, which was such a fun job. But I was passing out in the middle of class. And so as a teacher, you're not supposed to do that. And so thankfully, I was blessed that a doctor at the health clinic at UT, figured out I had an autoimmune condition of my thyroid. So just that, if a slow thyroid, I think of everything moving slowly. Your digestion slow, your hair growth slow, your energy slow. And so like, I didn't really pick up on that was what was going on. Did
you just like will yourself the energy? Because, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but yes, you probably were like, it's just normal. I'm exhausted. I'm a freshman. I'm burning the candles at all in, or I'm in college. And that's a result of, I'm not feeling 100% or I'm passing out because of these things. And just a side note, I don't know how we had to have known each other because I went to UT, health promotion and fitness, was in the kinesiology department, Gregory Gym all the time.
Wouldn't that be crazy if we took classes together? That'd be so funny.
I'm sure we did.
I was always in Gregory or in the, what was the bigger one called?
I know.
Rec Center. Yeah. I loved it there. Like it was my happy place. I wanted to be a healthy, active person. That's so funny.
Well, also just sidebar, that's the first place my husband ever saw me he was working for the basketball team there. And later he was like, I remember seeing you that one time in the rec center. I'm like, yeah, I was kind of there all the time.
Good chances.
So, okay. All right. So you get diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Give a little explanation about Hashimoto's.
So that is an autoimmune condition where your body sees an autoimmune is when you self-attack. And so for whatever reason, my body thought my thyroid was an enemy and started slowly attacking it. And so when that happens, your function goes down, to the point where it's not working at all. So.
Okay. So then how did they treat that? What was
So thankfully that one is pretty simple. Well, nothing's ever simple, but I was young and first had it, I just take replacement thyroid medication and that worked pretty well for me for a while.
So then with Hashimoto's, were you hyper, or what was
So mine was underactive. So that's the hypo.
Okay. So hence why you were passing out and exhausted and the hair wasn't growing and all the things. Okay. So,
and what's so funny? Like I freshman year did a crazy hair chop. Like I got it really short, like really short, and it wouldn't grow back, and it was like, I wasn't a person that would look good in short hair. And so it was just, it wasn't growing.
That's funny. That's a bummer. Yeah. You're like, come on, hair.
The haircut that never grew out.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful now. So, okay. And you said also they recognize you were iron deficient?
Yeah. So, and at the time, like And another thing, I was still on taking those acid reducing medicines, and they told me to keep taking them with iron, to oral iron, to see if I could get my levels up. But the irony is, like, when you take acid reducing medications, it blocks the absorption of iron. So it kind of wasn't really going to, but I still had stomach aches. So they still kept, just take this medication. So that was when I first started taking oral iron when I was 18.
Okay. And so did you get some relief once you got the thyroid where it needed to be and you were taking iron? Did you get better?
Yeah, I mean, I must have, right? Like, I still kept going. I was like, knew the person I wanted to be, this active person, and I had goals to pursue. And so I know that I had less energy than my friends. Like, I couldn't do all the things they were doing, but I definitely was a lot better with the medication. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then after, I mean, what you've already said so far just kind of makes my brain hurt, because and I know at the time you were experiencing all these things and you're just taking in information from the doctors. When did you start? So then how do I say this? What was there another ailment that then came up, or when did you start being like, hold up, I think maybe I should like really start looking into my conditions so I can feel better like forever?
So sadly, it was a very long time. Like, I have a master's in health promotion. And even with that, like, I thought I was doing all of the things. So there wasn't like an insight that like I could be doing better. And, I was on the low fat craze and all that, like, which was
For
basically,
sure.
I did all of those things, but I thought like I was like, I identified as a healthy person and like doing these, exercising and stuff. And so honestly, it's kind of sad to say now, but, I had my 3 kids, and fast forward to when we were living in Minnesota, I had a hematologist tell me, that we can do iron through an IV, because I still was anemic. And and I started then, and actually, no. Okay. And so I did that. I'm like, when did it change? Keep going. And so then we moved to Austin, and since I was feeling better, it had the IV iron, which was very helpful. So I started exercising kind of intensely again, but then I like totally crashed. I was kind of in that, like, had moved to Austin. I was in that phase of life where I just wanted me time, so I was staying up late, snacking and watching TV, and then caffeinating during the day, and just like, and then the midday slump. So I have some sugar. And so like I had all these habits in hindsight that weren't serving me well. And I had a friend, thankfully, praise God, she told me about this functional medicine doctor. So this was like 8 years ago. So that's how recent
you had your 3 girls.
I had my 3 girls. Yes.
And that just in and of itself, like, life is crazy when you've got 3 littles, because at that age, at that time of your life, that's busy. That is busy on a different kind of level than now. We're busy in a different kind of way, but you're just so hands-on. And your husband, I remember you saying, he's a doctor. His hours are kind of crazy because he's on call. So you're wanting to see him. And so you're just like burning the candle at both ends, and then you crash.
And then I crash, totally crash. And that, in hindsight, I'm thankful for all of this, but it was meeting that function. So my friend told me about the functional medicine doctor, and I met with him, and he gave me this long laundry list of things to do, and for my health. And I was feeling terrible already, but the first thing he said, the most important, was my circadian rhythm, but also that like overwhelm I felt with the long list of what to do. That's actually what planted the seed for me to want to help other people going through it, because I just knew, like, wow, these lifestyle behaviors matter, but it's really hard to do, with the 3 littles and the, and whatever else is going on, especially if you have chronic illnesses you're trying to, battle. And so it was at that time that I really started digging in and kind of taking a little bit more, I don't know if I would say responsibility, because it's just hard to do, but I really owned like what was going on with my body and wanting to dig deep into that and how could I support it. And then realizing that there's a lot of chronic illness. There's a lot of different, just life that you can do to support your health.
And so this functional medicine doctor, when you went to him, you're like, I'm exhausted. I felt great and now I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, it's your circadian rhythm.
So he said I was actually, at the time, some hormones and things were off, and he diagnosed me with HPA axis dysfunction. So hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction flows off. But the main thing that we really can fix that is your circadian rhythm. So like it was that I had gone so far outside, my body just wasn't resilient enough. And so that was the best thing I could do for my condition.
Okay, so this is the topic of the podcast, the circadian rhythm. Y'all, Tracie is an expert in this, and it seems so intuitive. And really, when you strip back all the layers, it is. But because we've gotten so far, we've removed ourselves as humans from the natural like flow of life and just like get up with the sun, go to bed with when the sun's down. Instead, we're a 24-hour cycle. We're on a 24-hour go cycle. And that has thrown us off. And so in theory, it's makes plenty of sense. It's easily like achievable. I know what it is. However, the reality is it's a little complicated too, because to use your words earlier, it's resetting our clock and it's creating new habits. And when I just try to tweak little habits, I'm like, oh, I got this. Oh my gosh, it's complicated. However, it works. So let's just start bare basics. What is our circadian rhythm?
So we have this natural 24-hour clock that our bodies were designed to work on. We actually have a master clock in our brain, in our hypothalamus, called our suprachiasmatic nucleus. So there's a master clock in our brain, and it's communicating to all our peripheral clocks throughout our body. Our organs have clocks, our muscles have this clock. And so, I like to think of it as you want everything running on the same time zone if you want things to work efficiently and synergistically. And so, it's kind of how we were designed to work.
Mm-hmm. And so the doctor said, it's your circadian rhythm. You got to get that right. And what did you do?
So I probably cried first, honestly. Because if you think about like all of my coping mechanisms, like, like eating snacks late at night, like that's so fun. Like you just want to like eat by yourself, right? And watch your own TV shows that aren't cartoons. And so like he wanted me to change everything I was doing. And the realization that like I was harming myself, like, by my habits. So yeah, I probably didn't take it great.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just realness that you shared, because yeah, you probably did cry. I mean, it's a bummer,
right?
And it's hard. Like making a change is hard when we're in some kind of habit, more or less making multiple changes.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
then
not feeling well, like you're just, yes. So I committed in my head, like I did the research of what it meant. And then I committed to 3 months of making these changes just to give it a shot. I don't even know if I believed it would work at the time, but I was so desperate to like want to feel better. And, I want to be a good mom. I want to have energy and I want to be available. And I was just so tired. And so I committed to 3 months of this. And for me, it started with, so my husband was coming home super late. Like he was taking call and he'd come home at 2 a.m. And I had this habit of waiting up for him. And so like that was hard too. Like on every level, it wasn't natural for me to change it, but I committed and I let it be known I'm going to go to bed as close to 9 as possible. And then I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. And I had this wake up light. So I would sit by my wake up light, this bright light, it's 10,000 lux. And I would sit by it and read my devotional. And then I would do a very gentle 15-minute yoga because I don't remember if I said, but I had overdone it with my exercise once I got to Austin. I was doing Krav Maga and just burnt myself out. So I had to stop all of those things and which didn't make sense because I was so tired, but it felt really good to get the stress out. But so I did I would wake up with my bright bright clock, 5 a.m., do my devotional and a gentle yoga, and try to get out as much as I could, and committed to the 9 o'clock bedtime. So those are the big changes that I made. And it sounds so simple, but it was really hard.
No, it's so hard. It's so hard. You said something that made me think. It really, sometimes we do think the harder, the better, but it really is based, as far as working out is concerned, it's just based on your biology and where you are in your life at that time. Like we were actively trying to get pregnant, I was needing to get my menstrual cycle just regular again. And had a really great chiropractor in town that I had seen, and he was, asking me about my stress level and my diet. And I was like, well, I eat a pretty clean diet, and I thought I was doing all the right things, and I work out all the time, and my life is great. It's not stressful. And he was like, well, how much sleep do you get? I'm like, about 5 to 6 hours. She's like, okay. How, do you wake up in the middle of the night to check your email and all that stuff? And this was, BlackBerry time. And I was like, yeah, if I get a text message or an email at night, cause I just started Ignite. Yeah, I check it. He was like, okay. He's like, so here's the deal. You are in a constant state of fight or flight. Mm-hmm. You are never just chilling. And he's like, I need you on a regimen of taking 2 to 3 Epsom salt baths every week. You need to start getting good sleep. You need to put the BlackBerry away and not wake up in the middle of the night, and just chill out a little bit, girl. And it's crazy. Within, I want to say a month, my menstrual cycle, or maybe probably 2 months, I was back on track. I was pregnant, I want to say 3 or 4 months later. It was crazy, and it was just simple, because in my mind, of course, I wasn't stressed out. I didn't feel like the stress of a single mom would feel, right? We didn't have financial stress. I wasn't stressed out with little children. I wasn't stressed out health-wise. We didn't have any big emergency things, but I was never resting. And he's like, you've got to start resting, because right now you're in a jungle being chased by a lion all day long. And until you stop, your body is just not going to, get all the systems in place the way they need to get in place. I was like, oh, okay. And so it worked. So all that being said, what may be good for one person, which is you wake up and you get it, right? For the other person whose body is overwhelmed and secreting way too much adrenaline all the time, you need to dial back. And it sounds like you were just you're adrenaline.
Yes, yes. And I tell my clients that fasting can be great for you. Exercise can be great for you. All these different things can be great for you, but not all at once. You need to balance your stress load as to what some things are unavoidable. So if you have that, what can you do? Because it's all about the balance, and season of life and season of your health. And, even in your cycle, there's times where it's better to get the harder workouts, and sometimes it's better to recover. And so just kind of honoring that. But it's hard when you're in survival mode, right? And you're just getting after it.
Also, you may not be in tune with your body either, because you don't know what feels good anymore.
Right. Yes.
Because your body is just inflamed, and you haven't felt good in a really long time. So what you may think at the time feels good may actually not really be good.
Right. I needed a stress reliever with that exercise class, but in reality, big picture, yoga or something would have been a much better fit for my situation at the time. And so, but, again, I don't know if it's humility or something needs to come in of an awareness of we can't do it, or maybe we shouldn't do it all. You could do it all, but at what expense?
Yep. So, and I think just paying attention, slowing down and asking yourself, what do I need today? Might be different, because fast forward to present time, you're golden and you're doing hardcore classes. but you're also balancing it with other things too. You do your own yoga. So you have built back up to that place, right? Where you're like kick butt, but you had to give yourself what you needed. Okay. So back to, you got the clock, the light. So this is all recommendations by your functional medicine doctor. Yes.
He said, fix my circadian rhythm. I think I don't remember if there was a handout, because I remember leaving going, I don't know what that means, but I'm going to nod and say yes. And he gave me this analogy it was great. I think it applies to so many things, but he was like, you can have 6 nails in your shoe, but if you just remove one, you've made progress, but you still hurt, your foot hurts. And so he was just like, these things, like you have to take out all the nails, and this is the best place to start.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You just said something too. How oftentimes do we go to a doctor and we're like, I don't understand anything you just said, but okay. Yeah. So in hindsight, would you go back and be like, okay, I need you to explain this a little more thoroughly to me? Or,
I think that's why I love doing what I do, is because I get to be that person. They go to the doctor. It's expensive to see these type of doctors. And so like your time is super limited. So you try to soak in the fire hose of information they give. And I love my role that I get to walk alongside women and then like parse it out and like, where are we going to start? And how does this make sense to you? So, so it planted my seed, and I don't know if something else. I mean, luckily we were at the age of like information where we can find out, so much stuff. Can.
So then that also ends up being tricky, because sometimes you're overwhelmed with information and you're like, where do I begin? So that's where you are so helpful with people.
That's what I love. Like, honestly, if I don't know if it's healthy, but it's my coping mechanism. If there's anything diagnosis given any of my kids, like I find like comfort in researching the heck out of it. Like I just love it. And so, it's a weird, like one time
you had to be your advocate for all of these years. You've had, this is part of, I love this. This is how passions develop, is because what you experience now, because you've experienced, and you then get to in turn, like help somebody else figure stuff out. Okay. So circadian rhythm, sunlight, that is uber important. So can we just start with that? So in this handout that you've given me, and then we will provide this in the notes, you have that light. Light is one of the, like, it's a necessary thing that we need to experience in the morning, right? Let me ask you this question first. It's really important that we are on routine, right? So like 9 o'clock bedtime, 5 a.m. arise, right? Like that is the goal every day. Do you stick with that on the weekends?
So I don't get up at 5 anymore. Now it's 6, but, and honestly, it's hard to hear, but yes, the weekends matter. Otherwise, when you're making yourself feel like jet lag and you're kind of just totally messing up your system, come Monday mornings are hard because we've stayed up and we've messed with our circadian rhythm. But in reality, like a great sign of a strong circadian rhythm is if you can wake up at the same time every day without an alarm clock, like Saturday, Sunday also, and so, because your body is designed to have a rhythm. And so if you want extra sleep, like a nap, early day or going to bed early is really the best way to do it.
Oh man. Okay. I know this because I know how important a schedule is, but I am terrible at that. I mean, how do you manage that with children?
Now I won't say that their circadian rhythms are on the same as mine. But I can only control me, right? Like I give them the information and they have their choices. But you notice like younger kids, they wake up, like they have a strong circadian rhythm. Like they're designed, like my 5th grader, she still wakes up on the same time on weekends, give or take 20 minutes. Like she's still up. She's like, I'm going to sleep in tomorrow. I'm like, okay. She doesn't. Like she's got a strong circadian rhythm. She maybe shortens it a little bit on the weekends, going to bed later. But, so I do go to bed sometimes before my kids. Like they don't want to go to bed, and I they're 15 and 17, and so I say goodnight.
Yeah, no, I love that. But do you like with their activities at night? So let's say you have a late night because you'll have something going on late, dinner or an activity. Do you just you still wake up at that same time that next morning, and then you try to get back to routine the next day? Is that how that works?
Like if you have to sacrifice it at night, like I mean, a nap would be ideal, or earlier to bed the night before, or, but I think something too that maybe not to get off too track, but like if you have a shortened night's sleep, your body's effectiveness and efficiency has gone down the next day. Even just one night's sleep, your body's ability to handle glucose and insulin and, those kinds of things. So like just being aware, like as another way to nurture yourself is I had a really yucky night's sleep the night before. I'm going to avoid those cravings of high sugar foods or, the sugar coffees or whatever. So being aware that your body can handle it less efficiently.
That's so good. Okay. So step 1, pick a bedtime, try to stick with it every single day, and pick a time that you will rise every morning. Okay. So are you 9 to 6 or are you 10 to 6 right now?
I'm 10 to 6.
You're 10 to 6. That's very doable.
Yes, it is. I mean, that's my goal. And generally it usually works. I think something to remember is the time you're in bed, so if you're in bed 8 hours, realistically, you're only sleeping 7. So kind of like taking that into account that you don't want to just be and 7's kind of the magic number that, for some of the most recent studies is for your insulin and your glucose and those kinds of things, your hunger hormones, your satiety hormones. So 7 is kind of the golden amount of sleep to aim for, and knowing that you're going to sleep less than the time you are in bed.
Okay, that's so good. All right. So 7 hours, pick a time you're going to go to bed and wake up every single day.
Yes.
Okay. And now we're going to talk about light. How long did you do this before you were able to establish a habit? Like before your body was like, okay, it's not like pulling teeth in order to make this happen.
That's a good question. I feel like, I was so tired. So like once I knew that I started to become easier to be ready for bed, because a lot of times if you get the second wind, like that's really you ignoring your body's natural cues to go to bed. Like it's a cortisol surge. It's not a healthy second wind. Like I know we have to take advantage of it, but like that second wind is like, we missed our good wind down sleep window where the melatonin, the sleep pressure has built up. So when I realized that I wasn't going to stay up for that second wind or that like me time or whatever, like falling asleep became easier. And for me, a wind down, we do it for babies and young kids, but a routine to wind down to bed, because thinking about all the stuff we do to amp ourselves up in the day, like we have to tell our body we're safe. It's time to relax. Let's push away the day. So like a good routine to go to bed too is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good. Okay. There's so much here. Okay. So let's talk about sunlight. All right. So you say bright light within the first 30 minutes of waking is what we need.
So, with time change, the sun isn't necessarily up, right? And so, but if you get up and you're just kind of having a dim, slow, I know people are going to get mad, but this is the ideal like research, and
we can do hard things.
We can do hard things, and Ignite is perfect for this because you know what? Our classes right now, we're up with the sun. So. But so you want that cue. So light to the eyes is the most powerful cue for your circadian rhythm. You have these receptors in your eyes and it communicates with that master clock in your brain. And that's the most powerful one. So the goal, having light within 30 minutes is the best way to cue your circadian rhythm. And and then we go on to the benefits of the sun. Like the sun has the spectrum, just the color that our eyes are designed to see to tell us it's time to wake up, and the brightness of it. Like it's a special, we are tied to the sun. Our rhythms are tied to the sun. And so it's a beautiful thing that all of these things work better when we get our morning sun. And that's why I said morning light mamas, because like how much more effective would we be if we got up ourselves and did this for ourselves and for our families? Like we got this morning light, like, and the rest of the day, like it's so much better. Like, the morning light, 10 minutes on a good day, at least in the South, like you have an increase in your dopamine, your serotonin, your orexin, which is your alertness, and healthy levels of cortisol, just from 10 minutes. Like what can be more productive than that? Like I can't. I don't think there's anything.
And you're not saying you must be sprinting during these 10 minutes. It's just, just look at light. Okay. So for example, 6 o'clock in the morning right now, it's not light outside. Yes. So you wake up at 6, you have a light device.
Yes. So my alarm clock, it has instead of, I don't need it right now, but so when I was first getting used to it, instead of waking up to an aggressive sound or it's just this gradual little light. And usually, like when I set it, like it just takes the tiniest little bit to alert my system to wake up, because we're just so designed to work with light. And so it's a super sensitive feature.
Okay, so we'll include this in the notes, but what is that alarm clock?
You mean like the brand name?
Well, yeah. I mean, can we just order this off of Amazon?
Yeah, just off Amazon. It's like mine's a Philips, but I can't remember if it's like it's a sunlight alarm maybe.
Okay.
And also we're trained to wake up to the sound of birds. So there's a feature where you can have birds, if you don't wake up with the light, if you have your eye mask on or something, you can hear birds. It's because just think about nature. Like these sounds are entrained in us to wake us up.
Oh my gosh, which goes back to, and you and I have just gotten real excited about this, just God's creation, the way he wired us and created us to be in tune with his creation, that creation. I'm looking at trees in front of me. I'm getting a lot of bright light in right now from my window. But that he created that for us to be in sync and in rhythm with. And we don't need anything else, but we have all of these things that humans, us silly people, have created and brought in, many of which have plenty of benefits, but they can also really strip us away and pull us away from the connection that we need with nature that allows us to be our healthiest.
And I think of it as such a loving gesture, his provision for us. Like when I think I get so, I get so excited when I start to talk about it, and I just feel like what a beautiful gift. Like he wants us to feel happy in the morning. He wants us to feel sad, like dopamine. He wants us to feel pleasure. He wants us to be alert and awake and energy to get stuff done. Like it's so beautiful.
It is so beautiful. And you know what's not beautiful is this thing. I'm like, let me look to see what all exploded in the world while I was sleeping last night. Like, don't wake up to this. Yes. This is like the worst thing. And I float in and out of that habit. And so I am not being preachy here. I am speaking with somebody who has struggled with that, who ebbs and flows in and out of this habit. But yeah, I like to think, and I've said this in other podcasts, I like to think to go to bed and to wake up listening and seeing beautiful things in, beautiful things out. And at least the last 30 minutes of our day, and at least the first 30 minutes of our day, just needs to be beautiful in and beautiful out.
I love that. I love that. Yes.
Okay, so we can get this alarm clock. That's an easy find. Yes.
And honestly, it's much more gentle. Like I got one for all of my kids because, and I know they have backup alarms and stuff too, but it's a sweet way to wake up, just a little light, and you it brings you out of your deep sleep into a, more conscious state and so it's, instead of like waking up and you're like, in the middle of a deep REM, a deep sleep. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay. So then when it's dark at 6 o'clock in the morning, do you kind of stare at that light, or how do you get that light if the sun's not up?
Yes. So I just have it come on really faintly because my husband doesn't necessarily his gut doesn't always want it on. It's funny, for the first, until we moved to Austin, he had to be at work by 6. So he was there, but now he gets to go in a little bit later on some days. So anyways, it's just, respect. It's just a faint light. But then I usually go into the bathroom with full lights and I have my little, splash water on my face and, drink some water and stuff like that. So it's in the bright lights there. And
okay, so can it just be any light then that we need to see the first 10 minutes of the day?
It doesn't give the same benefit as the sun, but definitely any light is still strong for your circadian rhythm.
Oh, okay. Got it. So we just need light the first 10 minutes of the day.
Well, within the first 30, it's just like a
Sorry.
kind of another cue to the brain. Mm-hmm.
Yes, first 30. Ideally sunlight. Otherwise, just any kind of light. We need that light. Okay.
And in regards to the sunlight, it's unfortunate, but it can't be through a window to get all of those benefits, because the windows and like the cars, like, a lot of people are driving, but they filter out the specific spectrum that your eyes need. So it needs to be in person. And if you think about like a flashlight, if you had a flashlight aiming at your face versus behind you, you're going to get a different amount of light. So you kind of want your face in towards the direction of the sun, not staring at the sun, but in that direction.
Okay, got it. All right. So the goal in the morning, well, let's backtrack. We want to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. That's goal number one.
And speaking of the night part, you want it dark. So melatonin, we've all heard of melatonin, but I like to think of it as magical melatonin because it neutralizes multiple free radicals. Like, it's so powerful. I think I even made a note of what melatonin does, but anyways, melatonin, it lowers your blood pressure. It's so magical of what it can do. And so we want the melatonin, and that it only comes out when it's dark.
Okay, nice. So I know it's ideal to have a cooler room temperature, like 69, right? And you recommend an eye mask. Like, it's like you're trying to help a baby sleep. When you black out a baby's room, same thing. You want no light in your room because all that does is hype us up.
It's going to and you can be asleep. Like, you might not know you're interfering with your melatonin's production, but just these little low grade things are going to interfere with your efficiency and your restoration. And you really want this sweet sleep to, restore your body. And so, like, you could be 50% because you've had all these lights, before bed, but you won't necessarily know it. But it's going to accelerate your aging and all these things. So darkness matters. So blackout curtains are great. Or if you have, share a room with someone else that's going to have lights or come in at different times, that's when the eye mask can be really great.
Do you sleep with an eye mask?
I sleep with it for the first, because my husband comes to bed later than I do. And so I sleep with it until he's in bed. So then the lights are all done, and then it usually just falls off. So.
Okay, nice. Now, you mentioned free radicals.
Yes.
Can you go into detail about those?
So if you think about, like, we take antioxidants or something, and so these are just like oxidative things that can happen. And so melatonin is just kind of, it neutralizes these. These are things that age us and cause disease process and inflammation. And so you don't want free radicals. So something that neutralizes multiple of them in a natural way is free.
Yeah. And so melatonin does that, neutralizes free radicals. That's amazing. And it's free. I mean, I do take a melatonin supplement every night, and I'll tell you, I get in the fastest sleep. I mean, deep sleep. And so ultimately, it'd be great if I trained my body to not have to take the melatonin and my body just naturally produce the melatonin. But I do believe I experience the benefits of melatonin every single night. And I don't have any trouble staying asleep. It just gets me or falling asleep. It just gets me in a really deep sleep quickly. Okay. So then bright light within the first 30 minutes of waking, and then sunlight as soon as possible. So you were talking about seeing sunlight. That's like being out in it and looking at it as soon as possible. And last time we visited, you had mentioned, is it by 10 o'clock?
So you want that sun in the low horizon. Like, once it becomes higher, it's not good for your eyes, and the spectrum is different, and it's usually just later in the day. So, I 10 is a guesstimate, especially now with this time change, it seems later. I feel like the sun, I was looking at it the other day, I feel like it just jumps like up, like you're like the sun, and then it's just high in the sky, but you want it in the horizon. Like,
okay. So. Good to know. And do you just look at it? Are you out in it?
So I get to play with my goats. And so in the morning I'm taking care of them and talking to them, but other things, you could have your coffee in the sun, or you can pair it with some other activity. I always like to put things together to make it easier and more likely to happen, like something else you need to do. Sometimes, I'm driving the kids to school and I just wait outside a few minutes before they get there. Or, even if you are checking your phone facing the sun, it's still better. Or sometimes I'll drive with my windows down. So kind of working it in. My favorite though is at Ignite classes. So I'm sitting there and I'll turn and face the sun. Weirdly, the rest of the class is facing one way and I'm like, "There's sun."
So you're just saying you like to pair getting in your sunlight with something else. So for the multitaskers,
yes,
we all like to double dip, get two things done at once. You can walk your children to school. You can water your plants. You can even go on, if you need to make an important phone call or any kind of phone call, right? Like my husband is always walking around our neighborhood talking on his phone. I'm like, well, at least he's getting his vitamin D. That's good.
Yeah. Right? Yes.
Yeah. So all kinds of good stuff, but just being out in it is what's important.
Out in it without sunglasses, without, you want your eyes to not be filtered, the sunlight to not be filtered.
Okay. That's really important information. And how much of that do we need? So,
say it's a sunny day, then like 10, some studies show as little as 5, but I think 10 is a safer number, and then if it's cloudy, then you would go longer.
Got it. The cloudy day is still,
the cloudy day is still better than the indoor light. Like the lux, and we can't see the color spectrum, but our eyes can detect it. Like our brains know.
Mm-hmm. It's just incredible. Okay. I'm just going to recap because repetition helps it sink in. Same bedtime, same wake up morning time. You want 30 minutes of light first thing in the morning. First rattle out of the box.
Well, light within 30 minutes.
Light within the first 30 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Bright light within 30 minutes of waking. How long do we need that light?
I don't, because it's not like giving you all the same benefits as like the sun is. I don't know if there's there probably is a set time. I know that you can, like for people that live up north, or they can get those indoor lights that have 10,000 lux. So like that would be like 15 minutes. And so if you had those bright lights and you're trying to replace some of the sun benefits, but it's more just, when you start to feel alert and awake, it's like kind of done its job.
Yeah. So instead of like dimming the lights in your house, like put them on and wake up. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't know if your mom ever like used to wake you up like that with the bright lights. That's how I wake my kids up. I'm like,
so much.
You're like, I turn it off.
Yes. Okay. And then sunlight as soon as possible. And you're saying we need to go outside, whether it's on a cloudy day or not, 10 minutes. And we have it where the sun is like horizon level. So it's not straight up and down. It's not 12 o'clock, but it's still pretty low. And getting that kind of light is very, very, very helpful. Okay.
Even before it breaks, like it's still beneficial. Like the color spectrum as the sun rises, like if that's when you can get it, it's still beneficial. And I think something really important is this sun is going to affect your sleep, because you're getting your serotonin with the sun in the morning, and serotonin is the precursor to melatonin. Like melatonin is made from this serotonin. And so you need your sun if you're going to have this good quality sleep. And I found what I had written down. So melatonin lowers your blood pressure, lowers inflammation, lowers your fasting glucose. Like you can't get that in a drug. Like it's amazing. Like just having the serotonin and the melatonin is so good for your health.
Yep, totally. Oh my gosh. And this is all free to us.
Right. Like we're designed for it. Like we're designed to get this. And we actually like, in so many of our ways, block these benefits, like so. Yeah.
And I know all of us know, right, that there is a design for us, like a natural design. But it's so good to be reminded of this, because it's just so easy to get pulled in these, synthetic directions, instead of going, no, hold on, wait a second. This is it's really simple. And I like to say, there are so many simple solutions out there. We just have to take them in, be aware of them, and then just implement them. And so again, I don't think anybody's going to hear this and be like, oh my gosh, I've never known this. We all know in our heart of hearts because this is how we've been designed. But then just knowing how simple it really is. And we as humans, and I've said this on this podcast before, I got this from my coach who I'm always like, I don't understand. Why have I made this so complicated? She's like, because we're silly, silly people. And we're silly, silly people. We like to complicate things.
Yes.
Okay. So now what about our evening? I know you said like a baby, there's a routine, but on my notes, we've got floor lamps, red lights at night, minimize the blue lights. I know that is that's very easily achievable for all of us. A dim alarm clock, have the blackout shades and eye masks. We talked about that. But how long is your bedtime routine? What do you do?
Well, I kind of have three things like right before bed that, I do just to kind of like wind myself down. Like my night shower, I take a shower at night and I don't go talk to anyone after that. Like that's my time. And like I've said goodnights and everything before that. And then that's how I transition from my day, just physically washing everything off and, and just relaxing. And I have, and the floor light that you mentioned, it's kind of just mirroring the sun. So the sun's high in the sky and then it goes down lower and our eyes are able to detect where light is coming from. So having light at floor lamps are another signal. It's like relaxing and time to calm down. And then you change the spectrum of the color, like salt lamps have that beautiful orange glow or fires. Like those are the lights you want at night and they're not going to interfere with your melatonin production. So the blue lights, you don't like them because they're interfering. I mean, we use them while we all Netflix or whatever, but like that's what's interfering with our melatonin production.
Okay. So when you talk about floor lamps, so at night is when we should start, if we do have dimmers, like start turning the lights off lower in our houses. Yes.
Yes.
And then, if we are watching screens, which all of us are, blue light glasses.
Yes. That's one way. There's different filters you can put on your phone, like night mode and things like that can be helpful to not take so much in. And just kind of being aware, like the proximity matters, like our phones, like really couldn't be we've designed something that just totally destroy our sleep. So when you look at things up close, you're activating that your sympathetic system of your nervous system. So because focusing is alertness and awakeness. And so when you're looking at a phone, it's got bright blue light and then the content, depending on how that makes you feel stressed or whatever you're looking at, like all of those things can make you further away from sleep and restoration. So even, like my kids, like, I'm like, let's just watch a show on the TV if we're going to do something. For a while they had blue blockers, but just take what I get now. But, like having that light not so close to your face, it actually does make a difference. And for anyone that's watching the video, so I'm holding the red light. So there's night lights available on Amazon and they just have like a little red glow around the edge of it instead of having a bright white light. So any place that you need a night light or, kids, like you don't want them to have the bright lights in their room. So a little red light won't interfere with their melatonin production the same way.
Perfect. That it's making so much sense to me. Okay. So what are the three things you said you do at night? You take a shower.
So I take a shower and I have my lights low and I have a gratitude practice. Well, that's the last thing I do when I'm in bed, but usually some light stretching or, something like that, just kind of some breathing. And then for me, like I'm an anxious person. I get wound up and I feel things intensely. So my wind down thing is I start from the beginning of the day and I scan the day for things to be grateful for. And so I just highlight reel because I don't want to remember all the negative, and so I just this morning I got to see Kathleen and, our Power Up class and everyone was so friendly and, we were celebrating Trina's birthday and, just going through that day will be my routine for the night. And it's such a beautiful, and the detail of it kind of is what I don't usually make it to lunch. And so it's a great way to separate and focus on the positive. And gratitude it's so hard to be anxious when you're grateful.
Well, and just back to the way we wake up and go to bed. If we can get into that habit of that being our last thought was something really wonderful that happened that day. I mean, is there a better way to end our day?
I 100% agree. Because naturally I would be like, I forgot to do this. Tomorrow I have to do this. I have to do that, and that's not going to make me sleep well. So
Well, yes. And I am not in the great practice with this, but something when I do have those moments, I do think it's helpful by your bedside or, for somebody who has a lot that typically will run through their brain or just has a hard time turning their brain off at night is just do a brain dump, before you go to bed, get it out. And then maybe then you can actually focus on gratitude. Sometimes
that's realistic, right? Like if you've got this noise, you have to get rid of the noise first. So that's a great habit. And having it, so do you do it in a journal?
Sometimes, or just can be a random piece of paper, like a notepad, like just write it down, get it out of my brain. So because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget this tomorrow and I've got to make sure I do this. And like, oh, then one thought will lead to another. And, and so it just really allows me to empty out my brain and calm it. And I'm not an anxious person, but my brain is always going. And
well, I'm sure with all your business and managing all these things, like your brain's.
Well, I was just thinking about that today. I was like, okay, women, who suffers from decision-making overload, And we have to know that's where the benefit of Ignite comes into. Like, we make all the exercise decisions for you. You just show up and we've got a plan for you.
I know, and you'll have the equipment and everything. It's crazy.
We got it. Okay. So this is really good. Let's talk about, because I want to, I want to wrap this up sooner than later because I know you have kiddos coming home. Okay, vitamin D and sunlight. So let's talk about sunlight. It is just like the greatest thing ever. Ever. And I just heard, we know that sunlight produces vitamin D, and vitamin D is like a miracle vitamin for our bodies. So how much, Tracie, my question to you is, how much sunlight do we need every day?
So I think this is a great question. And I highly recommend this free app called D-Minder. And so you enter in where you are. So it knows the weather, it knows the cloud cover. You enter in your skin type because it's so specific to what your skin type is, how much vitamin D. So the darker skin you have, the more sun you're going to need to get the same benefits. And so, kind of the rule of thumb is half the time it takes you to get pink. And you can't get all of your vitamin D, you have to have skin exposed. You can't have it in one area. Your receptors kind of close off. I think it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But so like you need more skin exposure to get the vitamin D, but it's not as long as it doesn't have to be very long, especially in Texas. Like you can get it, and it's not the morning sun and it's not the evening sun. It's that midday sun, 10 to 4, when the UV is the highest is when you're going to get the benefits of vitamin D. And, something that's kind of interesting is like your nutrition matters for even you to get your vitamin D. Like if you're deficient in magnesium, which most Americans are, like you're not going to even be able to metabolize the vitamin D that you get. So like you want to have good magnesium on board. But the D-Minder app will give you a good, it's kind of fun. It has like a little clock of how many units of vitamin D you're getting at, in a little sun session. So like if you're intentionally going out and laying in the sun, using this app is a great way to do it safely.
Okay, so I have D-Minder.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I have not been able to figure out how to use it. So in the settings, is that where I go to like enter my skin type?
You should be able to enter your skin type
profile.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. All right. And then it just tells me, and then like it's got the little start sun exposure. Do I hit that or like?
Yeah. So right when you're going outside, and it'll tell you how much you've gotten per that little sun session. This is kind of more if you're just out sunbathing or whatnot, like if you're intentionally getting your sun.
Okay. I was misinterpreting it. I thought it was going to tell me like, you need to like go get your sun now, but I have to go outside with my phone.
Well, it will tell you what the conditions are if you were outside. Like it won't know if you're in or out, but if you're out sunbathing, you push the start and then it'll kind of tell you what your body's doing and needing.
Okay. So in the winter, how do you manage this when it's cold?
Well, and because of the way the sun is, it's farther away. So you would actually need longer. So realistically, like, having vitamin D in your diet would be a beneficial.
Yeah. Got it. So for most people, yes, getting vitamin D from the sunlight is is recommended. We all need that. But definitely be taking a vitamin D supplement too.
I mean, I'm not allowed to recommend supplements, but yes, like I would. And you know, foods like vitamin D and foods like vitamin D, foods like eggs and things like that have vitamin D are good to incorporate in your diet.
Yeah, got it. Yes, we're not doctors. We cannot tell you what to take, but I think just a good general rule of thumb is, take a supplement as a backup, and
Especially, and it's important for your, like your blog was so great, but it's so important for your mental health. I think we kind of underestimate that. Another reason, like why we have our winter blues, and I love data. So I'm always, when you're getting your labs, like if you're supplementing with vitamin D or you're concerned, get it checked, like ask. I've never had a doctor on that one tell me no, or any of my clients no. So, and the optimal range is more between, Mark Hyman says between 50 and 70, like the range on the labs, like always off on my soapbox here, but always ask for your labs, like want to see your own data, because they can say it's in the range, but you can be the conventional range, I think it goes down to like 25. You would not feel well if your vitamin D was at 25. So like ask for your numbers, and you want it to be between 50 and 70.
Okay. Good to know. And it's so easy to get lab work now. I mean, there's so many places where you can go test for these levels now.
If you were to supplement, and I'm not saying that you should, but vitamin D is fat soluble. So if you pair it with some sort of fat, you're much more likely to absorb it.
Good fact. Good to know. Yeah, vitamin D, I mean, the sunlight, it is magic. It is magic.
It's so magical. Literally, yeah. It's magical.
So how do we get sunlight in the summer months without getting a sunburn? That might be a dumb question, but.
Well, no, I think that it just doesn't take as long for you to get your vitamin D in the summer that you need. But a clean sunscreen after you get your sun exposure, and then, really the best thing is cover-ups, because then you don't have to worry about putting anything on your skin. Of course, I'm a big fan of Beautycounter, but they have clean sunscreens. And so like if you to do that, and so like you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have your sun, and then you can cover up and enjoy being outdoors.
Because when it's summertime, it doesn't take long to get that sunlight. So it's not like you have to be out in the sun without, fully exposed for an hour. We're not talking about that.
No, because you don't want skin damage. And like I would always wear sunscreen on your face because it's more sensitive, but the rest of your body, like, I feel like my D-minder suggests like 10 minutes on each side. And that's like to get my maximum dose that my body can handle without causing skin damage. So that's not long.
Oh, okay. So I have completely not done D-minder.
And you have a darker complexion, so you would probably need more than I would.
Yeah, and I could handle being out there more. So, okay, good to know. I need to go. I need, in fact, probably Google like a D-minder or YouTube a D-minder tutorial and like figure out how to use it appropriately.
We should put it. I'll have to share it. But and another interesting thing about how not to get burned, shrimp or salmon, any seafood that's pink has this ingredient called astaxanthin. Maybe that's not how you say it, but you get the idea. But it is an internal sunscreen. So if you're going to be out in the beach, you want to have each, if you can tolerate it, shrimp and salmon, and you're actually better able to handle the sun in a healthy way.
Huh? Who knew? That makes perfect sense, though.
It's an interesting, and it's good for. I mean, it's a great nutritional aspect too. But
yeah. Oh,
internal
love
sunscreen.
It. Okay, love it. All right. So I know that you're also really a proponent, as am I, of movement. So we'll spend the next like 10 minutes on just movement and food digestion. I know these are both two really two important topics that you love to talk about, but real fast before we go there, because I just had this thought. So after you got your circadian rhythm right, how soon thereafter did you start feeling great?
It blended, and never was I like, I should remember this because then it would be helpful for someone else. But I vividly remember like just wanting to wake up and do my yoga. I think I committed to 3 months, but I'm pretty sure I did it for like a year because I just loved it, and at the time my youngest was really small, like in pre-K, and it just definitely changed, everything. It just made life more enjoyable because I had more energy. So
Mm-hmm.
it was much better. And, just kind of on my health journey was a huge pivotal, step for me.
And so had you not felt the impact, you probably would have ditched it and like, this doesn't work. But clearly you felt the impact and
Yes.
it was so strong that you've like, yep, we're going to keep doing this. And you've never looked back.
Yes. And, the more I learn about it, the more I know it's like preventing other things by having the circadian rhythm strong. And so it's hard for me to stop talking about it because like, I just feel like we are naturally blocking this beneficial thing in our health. And so just kind of preaching over and over, like, let's do this. And, our poor kids that are growing up, my kids, like, we have a lot of screen time. We have a lot of these things that are just not necessarily natural rhythms. And so
totally. And we really do
hard.
have to, I'm sorry, I had to charge my computer. We really do have to just be aware that these things, they are part of our reality, but knowing how to use them healthily so that they work for us, but they don't work against us because they can work for us and not against us. They just don't, it doesn't have to be all against.
Yes.
Just knowing
I
how to
actually
use
made a list of if you have a weak circadian rhythm of what it can affect. Okay, so just by not strengthening your circadian rhythm, you're much more at risk for inflammatory diseases, your immune system's weakened, much more risk for metabolic syndrome, increases your risk for cancer, and it accelerates your tumor growth, increases your risk for psychiatric disease, neurodegenerative disease, accelerates aging, increases anxiety and depression, and decreases our energy just at a lower level, but like so important. So all of those things from a weak circadian rhythm.
And you can just so easily see how, and I hate to be such a dog on this, but I mean, and we all have to live with it. It's our reality. But since the invention of this, we really have to fight for healthy habits and that healthy circadian rhythm. And so I appreciate you sharing this because now we have the knowledge, the why behind it. And that's, unless you know the why, you're not as willing to fight for something or to try it. So
make the effort because it's against the current. And I love to geek out on the why. Like that part excites me, definitely motivates me. So
yeah. And I'm sure too, I'm sure it's so helpful for y'all as a family to have a good routine. No different than when babies are, little, you want them in that good routine so you can get some sleep, so everybody can sleep and be healthy and happy. But I just think that, I love how you've really established this routine and you've stuck with it and your kids are aware of it and your husband and nobody's sacrificing anything. Like in the end of the day, everybody's happy because you've just set some strong boundaries around your time.
Yes. And, my high schoolers, they do love to talk late at night. And so there's times where like, that is more important to me, but also like, try to like, hey, can we talk early? But no, like I'm not going to give up those precious moments, but also I'm going to like realize, okay, what I did to my circadian rhythm, how can I support myself the next day? Or, because when you don't get good sleep, you're going to feel hungry or going to reach for those like higher calorie foods. And then your body is not going to be able to use that energy as efficiently. So it's kind of a cycle, but just being in awareness, like, hey, spring break, I loved our family time. We stayed up late. Actually, we stayed up late because of that storm, but like I chose it. You're just making these choices, I think, intentionally, one way or the other.
As far as napping is concerned, let's say you do have an unusually late night. What do you recommend the next day? Like just a 30-minute, because you don't want to, because what happens too, if you over nap, then you have more energy that night. So what is your recommendation for that?
And I think with everything, it's important to experiment with your own self. Like some people, so like as soon as you wake up, you start to build sleep pressure, like this desire to go to sleep. And so a nap kind of relieves that. So if you do it too late in the day, you won't build up that sleep pressure to want to go to bed at night. So kind of like an early nap. Like for me, if I did it, certain times, like a 20-minute nap for me is great, but I would need to do it, around 1 or 2. Like if I did it later than that, it would probably affect my sleep.
Okay.
So just kind of, if you have trouble falling, knowing that some people, and I don't actually know what it would do to your melatonin, but I know my teenager, they take naps before they study. Like they'll come home and then they'll go into these hardcore study sessions and stay. And so like it's important for learning because you need to transition your memories out of your hippocampus. So sleep is just great.
Yeah, sleep is so great. I love sleep. I love it. I always have. I love it. Okay, let's talk about you recommend movements as soon as you wake up. So what is your movement?
Yes. Okay. So this is another cue. So we have that master clock in our brain, and then we have these peripheral clocks, and they all communicate with each other. And movement is another huge signal to your circadian rhythm. And so generally, I mean, 99% of the time, like once I wake up, I get up and get out of bed. And so it's just like not sitting in bed and lounging, because that's going to just like tell your mitochondria to slow down. So you get up and you move, and for me, it's nothing like intense right now until I get to the Ignite classes, and then those are really intense.
So you're saying it doesn't have to be like exercise or some kind of like that. It doesn't have to be exercise movement. It's just move your body. Don't
just
wake up, sit and drink your coffee. Just move.
Just move. Like, it's just a cue to your body and your brain that it's daytime. It's time for action. It's time to have energy.
Okay. And so for you, that's where you go to your goats and tend to them?
Yes. So I wake up, and I wait until there's daylight. And so as soon as there's daylight, I go out and I'm walking the yard and feeding the goats, letting them out, and it's my happy place. And so, I mean, it's just walking the yard really. But, so that's how I start my movement.
Okay. All right. Got it. I told you this back in February, but I started reading a book called The 5 a.m. Club. And it's all about this kind of thing, but the going to bed at the same hour, waking up at the same hour, moving first thing in the morning is promoted in this book because they don't talk about circadian rhythm, but it just talks about, living not just productively, but intentionally, right? Like to pursue your best, we need to establish a routine and have a rhythm in our life, and going to bed at the same time matters, waking up, moving our body, getting our energy flowing. And so there's such an overlap between what that book said and what you are telling me. And you also feel when you wake up and you tell your body it's time to go, let's go. You're ready for the day. Your attitude changes. You feel accomplished first thing in the morning. And then that, I think, is just that type of feel good goes on and on and on and runs throughout. It helps us throughout the rest of the day.
Yes.
Anything. Because I do believe we were, and I don't want to over suggest this, but I do think, God made us to be movers, right? And to be productive and to have, accomplishment during the day.
Is it Proverbs 31 where the wife or the mom gets up before the sun and she's already doing all these things? And I'm like, yes, like that's, and like, it's great. You're productive and you feel better when you do it. Eventually, anyone that's like changing to that, they're going to disagree with me. But like, eventually, I promise, like it's so good. It's so fun to be on this side of it.
Say that with, caution. Know your body. Know what you need. Pay attention to your body. Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily like in different seasons. It's getting up and just peacefully walking the yard, or maybe it's getting up and having a 7-minute HIIT workout. But like honoring yourself for sure.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And we do need to pay attention back to what Amy taught us in the Ayurveda podcast is to live with the seasons too. So, we're moving into a more energetic season. We're in spring and it's going to be summer. We have our energy. We're ready to go, go, go. And then fall, winter, and we start to kind of hibernate a little bit more. We slow down a little bit. Doesn't mean we stop. It just things change a little bit. And paying attention to those. Okay. So movement. So you say move after meals. So move when you wake up and move after meals.
Yes. And that can be another, just a walk. But so if you think about your body utilizing energy, your muscles will utilize the glucose from the meal that you just ate. If you're not moving, it's going to send it to storage. It's going to, muscles use glucose without the use of insulin. So and that can, prolonged insulin can cause a lot of health problems. So it's just a great way to use your glucose and enjoy your meal, and it helps digestion. It's not intense. It's just a gentle walk, or, sometimes it's often here just doing dishes and putting it away, but just kind of thinking about like a 15-minute movement after you eat can be really beneficial.
I love that. And that's so achievable.
Right.
That's so achievable.
Yes. If when you see this list, but if you just stack it with things that you have to do anyways, or, a quality walk with your family afterwards, or maybe that's when you take the dog out, or that's when you go listen to a podcast on a walk and have a little quiet, depending on the season of life, like what that would look like. But after a big meal. And yes. So we're on.
And you say gentle movement, same thing, coming throughout the day.
And this is like another, just like for your mitochondria and your cells to know it's daytime. This is when we move. This is when we're active. Our lymphatic system requires our muscles to be moving. Sitting just tells us to not make energy, and it's going to make you feel worse overall. So you want to move, you want to wiggle. Just, it doesn't have to be intense, like just gentle movement.
Well, and it's interesting though. I own a fitness business. The majority of my day is doing things on the computer. So you're going to see me move. I have purchased a desk that it moves up, and this is not a new thing. Everybody has seen these before, but I'm standing now because I was sitting for too long every single day. And I also got myself a little like $150 treadmill thing so that I can walk and do my stuff too, because I was sitting and I'm like, this is terrible for my body. So even if you are that person, which is so many of us who work on computers all day long, there's a way around that too.
Yes. I didn't, because I didn't want to be bouncing, but like when I have clients, like I sit on an exercise ball, like I didn't want to make anyone sick here, but just even those gentle movements using your core, the more supported you are, the less your muscles work, and and then the more atrophy you'll become. So you want to, sit in an uncomfortable position. So you fidget. Fidgeting's good,
That's so good. Well, too, I notice, especially on a long road trip, and this is maybe TMI, but this is what the power of we is. We're all in this together. I get constipated, too much sitting. It messes with my systems. And another reason to stand, to fidget, to just move however you can. Okay. Resistance train.
Yes. So muscles are just, I've become so obsessed with them lately. They're the organ of longevity. And I just feel like, strength is cool, right? But like just exercising those muscles has so many benefits for our brain, for inflammation, for our immune system, and having these muscles. It's not easy to get as we get older. Like it takes more effort, it takes more intentionality, it takes more protein, because our bodies don't even handle the protein we consume as well. So it's kind of a challenge. And so I think an intentional effort towards maintaining your muscles is really important for longevity.
No doubt about it. And I've seen that with my own eyes with Ignite. Every single one of us are getting older. Every single year we get older. But because of the commitment, every single one of us are getting stronger. And I like to say more awesome. It's amazing.
I remember the first exercise one I went to, I was probably one of the younger ones, and I couldn't keep up with anyone. I mean, not anywhere close. I was cheating on everything, and these women were killing it, and I was so impressed. I was like, I'm coming back. I'm going to be like that.
There it is. And, we're just not saying this. We see it with our own eyes every single day, that the older aging, which we all are every single second of the day, does not have to, it doesn't mean you have to get old. There is a reversal, and it's through regular, exercise, strength, cardio, yoga, Pilates, dance, do it all. And it changes things.
Yes. I love it. And I've always been I've always thought of myself as an exerciser, but when I started Ignite was the first time I've really put all this energy into weightlifting. And so, and I feel so much better because of it.
Yeah. And I think you have to work smarter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. The older we get, we have to work smarter, and we are losing muscle mass unless we are strength training. Just the way it is. And we're losing bone mass too.
And And if you're not eating enough protein, like our body needs protein for all of its life functions, it's going to break down your muscle. So like it's an ongoing like battle. But there's ways that you can do it.
Totally. So. And we got to do the whole thing on protein because it is huge. It's not, it's not near as convenient as carbohydrates.
Right.
However, they are abundant. Protein is, and there's so many different ways that you can get it. And I like to think of protein as muscle food. Just muscle food.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's great. Because, once you really value muscle, you want to feed them, I like totally. That.
Well, and you kind of have to tip that food pyramid that you and I grew up with. Inverted.
Oh my gosh. But it's still like what's kind of like talked to in conventional medicine. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, you need really high quality protein. The carbohydrates are necessary for energy, but it doesn't need to be our main energy source.
Well, and it doesn't have to be in the form of
bread,
pasta. It can be in the form of fruits and veggies and things that are going to feed our gut microbiome and have these double benefits. So
totally. Yes. All right. And you talked about range of motion, balance practice, interval training, lift heavy stuff. Yes.
And I think range of motion is something because I also was an occupational therapist. And so I did outpatient rehab, and every day we're stretching our back muscles because we're rounded over. Every day we're sitting in these postures, and then we're going to ask it to do these other things. We haven't stretched the opposite. And so just for, preventing injury, making sure you have your full range of motion and kind of just countering however you normally are, which for me is like rounded over. So I have to stretch the opposite and work on that.
Let me stretch,
right?
Yes. And this is just the truth. If you don't use it, you lose it. And that's balance. That's everything. That's flexibility. That's a coordination.
And if you don't have that full range, you'd go for a movement. That's when you're going to get injured because you're going to ask it to do something that you're not safely able to do. So it's really important to give that energy to stretching.
I'm going to plug this for anybody who's listening to this who you do not participate in Ignite and you're female. This is what we do. Whether it's our in-person classes in Austin or at-home classes with me and, in your living room, we're going to take you through every single plane, every single movement. We're going to balance. We're going to work the core. We're going to work our strength. We're going to work our cardiovascular. I mean, you name it, it's going to be worked because we need it all.
We need it all. And y'all do a phenomenal job, honestly. I'm so picky and I just love the questions. They're all so good.
Hey, yes. Well, that's music to my ears. And I know our team's ears too, because I know that you are an expert. And so for that to come to you, that means a lot. Okay. So let's get to the final topic, food and digestion. How do you say this? Cephalic phase?
Oh, cephalic phase.
Cephalic phase.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to us about this.
So I feel like this is one of the most underestimated things we're doing. And honestly, when someone first told me about mindful eating, I did roll my eyes and I feel bad about it now. But now that I understand the reasons, the science behind it. So we are designed to smell food and, think about food before. And that what happens is we have this vagus nerve that innervates all of our digestive organs. And just this thinking about food and smelling food is activating this vagus nerve. You start to salivate. And, I didn't even realize, until recently, the importance of your saliva. You have different enzymes in there to break down carbohydrates and fat that are just in your saliva, and chewing it breaks it down. And so this phase of digestion where you're just really kind of getting into this state to eat. Now, we tend to be in this stressed over, go phase, maybe drive through, and we haven't smelled the food and we haven't prepared ourselves. This also activates stomach acid and, enzymes in our pancreas and, motility in our intestines. So all of this is activated when you first start thinking about food. So so many people have I have a ton of digestive issues with my autoimmune condition. So I take it very seriously, but this is a free thing you can do. And just maybe in moments, just get your system in a relaxed place to start eating.
Okay. That makes so much sense. And thank you for that reminder. Okay. So you say smell and think about the food to activate your vagus nerve. So we just start thinking, seriously, you talking about that? I kind of got that little thing back there. I'm like, I think I need some food.
Yes.
Think about it. And then to chew, you mean not to gulp down your food like I do? Like, whoa, that was a 30-second meal down the drain.
I know, sometimes I'm like, why did I forget? Why do I not chew? But it's so important. Like, if you're eating nutritious food, you put the energy into making it and buying it. Like, why not get all the nutrients out of it that you can? And that means chewing it and breaking it up so your body can get the nutrients later when it gets to the small intestine. So it's really important.
Golly, I mean, again, silly humans, slow down, chew.
Slow down and chew. I know. And even in myself, like for me specifically, because I don't make stomach acid, like I have a lot of digestive issues. If I eat stressed, my stomach hurts so bad because I'm not even doing like supporting what I am capable of doing. So if I'm in an argument, I should just know better. Don't eat. Cause like I can't, so like mine's super dramatic, like I am, but for everyone, if you want your good digestion, calm your body down, calm the conversations. You have these family dinners, maybe gratitude practice beforehand just to get everyone like in a good state. And so
I don't think you're dramatic. You're just passionate. You're not dramatic.
Thank you. We'll pretend that's it.
No, that's so good. I love just the idea of same thing we would tell our children, slow down and chew your food. Okay, you say pause before eating and chewing. Just to, and I love that you said, don't get into argument or don't eat angry or in a hurry, because if you're like me, I do that. I eat in a hurry and then I'm like, did I just eat? It doesn't even register with me that I ate.
Oh, there's food scientists that they create foods where you don't even register that you've eaten. Like they dissolve in your mouth, and it's just these hyper palatable foods. So like it's so easy to be like, did I eat? Like you didn't get a chance to your gut to communicate that you're full, and so it's like this beautiful system when we allow it to work naturally.
Isn't that the truth? That's the quote of the day. A beautiful system when we allow it. Okay, so we talked about gut microbiome. Eat the largest variety of whole, real foods. That's what we want the majority of our body. The majority of our food to be whole, real food. Avoid inflammatory foods, which are just refined, fake. Anything else you want to add to that?
And some of the like oils, unfortunately, can be inflammatory, like olive oil, avocado oil. Those are great. But, canola oil, they're just inflammatory. And unfortunately, usually what restaurants cook with, they're inflammatory. And so you're just thinking about putting that. And the whole food, like your gut microbiome, these are bacteria that have all these beneficial things for you, and they survive on different foods. So if you have a variety of food, like a mixed fruit cup is better than a bowl of berries because you're feeding different things. And so you want these they actually produce energy and vitamins and vitamin K, and so you want your gut microbiome to be healthy and avoiding the it's sugar. Unfortunately, I love sugar, but it's the most inflammatory. So
we all know that, and it's highly addictive, which is why it's so difficult. But that's we can never be reminded enough that sugar is the inflamer of them all. Yeah. So, and I'm just going to plug this because we have it. We have it to be a benefit for people's health, but we have these 30-day meal plans for this reason. They are whole. They come with grocery lists. They come with what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it really, really simplifies your life because, that's another decision we have to make every single day. What are we going to cook? Right? What are we going to feed the family? This kid likes this. This kid doesn't like this. What am I going to eat? And I'm tired of making decisions. So I'm just going to grab whatever it is out of the pantry. So that, it's not a simple thing, but there are ways around it. And I really do think, just some meal planning, finding people that you like to follow online that provide good quality meals. And then we've got these 30-day meal plans for that reason right there too.
Love that.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up, Tracie, with 5 questions. Let's start with this one first. Who is your power of we?
So my power of we. Well, I would say that I'm so blessed to have my family. Like we've moved around a lot and we've just, I have 3 girls and they're so much fun. Like, I actually love being with them. And so it's such a unique, I'm just really blessed, and I'm thankful for that and my husband. And so I love being with them. I don't know if they'll say the same, but I love being with them, and they're so much fun, and just seeing their personalities develop and encouraging each other and stuff. And so they, sent me a text before this today, cheering me on. It's just really sweet. And, and honestly, I've been really excited to be joining Ignite. And, as someone that's more shy, like, it's harder for me to get out there. And so everyone's so positive and encouraging. I'm really thankful for this group.
Well, we will gladly take you in as a Power of We partner. You already are the part of the Power of We, but that you will accept us as your Power of We circle.
Yes. And now I'm coming to the lake escape, so I'm so excited to it's such a great. I just can't say enough nice things about your group and what you've established. I love it. It's so powerful.
Well, I love that. And that's just, we're blessed. The Lord has blessed us beyond measure with just all the things that he does. So I'm so grateful. And I could not agree with you more. This community is just beyond measure of how wonderful they are. So what's your favorite quote?
So my favorite quote, something I have to recite because I mentioned I'm anxious. So it's a Bible quote, something I say to first of all, I love inspirational quotes. Like, I just feel like it's a sweet way to talk to yourself. Like, I have them everywhere. I doodle them. Like, I like that. Like, I genuinely like that. One of my clients, when she first met me, she was just like, it took me a minute, but then I realized you're authentically meaning it. I'm just like, aren't they so fun? Like, just like, cause I just get so excited.
Yes.
But my favorite verse, I think, that I remind myself often is just be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and may the peace that surpasses all understanding guard your hearts and minds also in Christ Jesus. And I feel like he designs it for us. He doesn't want us to be anxious, and he tells us to be thankful in all things. And that's something I tell myself daily.
I love that.
I actually did it today when Kathleen was having us do the hangs for a minute. And I was dying. I was like, it's just the first one that comes to mind too.
I don't think you can say that scripture enough.
Right.
Okay. How about, are you reading a book right now? And if so, what is it?
Yes. So I'm always reading books. I don't necessarily read them start to finish, but one that I'm going to do a book club over soon is Gabrielle Lyon's Forever Strong. Highly recommend it. It's all about organ as the muscle of longevity. I think it's a great, very accessible book. And so I'm working on that one. And then I've just started listening to the Atomic Habits book. I think have you read that one? I think I'm the last person to read it, but it's so good.
So I feel like it's always on the bestseller list. It just never gets old.
Yes. It's so good.
Well, Circadian Rhythm, that's a habit that we could all, right?
Mm-hmm. You could just, if 1% closer towards having a better rhythm today, 1%, what can you do?
Totally. I love that. That's so achievable. What's your favorite form of self-care?
So, to be redundant, but honestly, my goats, I got them in February, which was actually kind of a really hard season for me. I'd gotten a diagnosis that maybe I had tumors, and I had all these testing, and I'd been on this goat waiting list for over a year and a half. And right around that time, they called and said, we have baby goats for you. How cool is God? That he was just here's this happy bundle of joy that you get to bottle feed. And I just have really, that's when I have paired taking time out and being present. I watch them and I enjoy them and I interact with them. And I borderline obsession, I get it, but it's just, they bring me so much peace. And I think it's because I have 4. I have 2 that are a year old and 2 that are 5 months old, 6 months old ish. Yes. So they're so fun.
What are their names?
So I let my kids name them. They've each claimed some. So we have S'more and Mocha are the older ones, and then we have Chai and Oreo are the babies.
Oh my gosh. And guilty of being that person who goes down the rabbit hole of watching goat videos on social media. They're so
the happiest animals.
everywhere. They're so
cute. They actually do. And they're so they're just so happy and they're obsessed with people. They're very socialized. Ours are. And so they're just so fun.
Well, in the show notes, so we're going to create a blog post based on this podcast and we're going to get pictures of your goats from you. Okay.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yes. Yes.
And then one day I think we need a field trip to see your goats.
Oh, you should totally come over. Yes. Next time you're in town, you have to come visit the goats. They'll be offended if you don't.
Done. Okay. Last question. What are you looking forward to? Is there one thing that you're just looking so forward to?
So we have a trip coming up with my husband's family, and we're all going to Hilton Head. And I just, my daughter's a junior, and I know our time is limited. And so I'm in that phase of life where I'm just trying to savor all the moments. And he has an amazing family, and I do too. I'm so thankful. But you're just going to go all share a house on the beach. And so I'm so excited. I think it's going to be so much fun and strong circadian rhythm habits, right?
All right. So that is the perfect ending to this as you bring it back around to the strong circadian, even while you're on vacation. It's such a beautiful place. Seriously, your passion is contagious and is such a blessing to me and everybody who you come in contact with and everybody who's going to hear this. So you can we're going to share your how to get a hold of Tracie information. Morning Light Mamas is Tracie's website, and use her as a resource as your functional health or functional medicine coach. Would it be okay if anybody had specific questions that they reached out to you?
Definitely. Yes. I love. It's hard to get me to stop talking. I love talking about it. So, and I love to be supportive because I know what it's been like to be there and be overwhelmed. So, in any way I can help, I would be honored.
Amazing. Well, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for your time, for your knowledge, for your wisdom, and just for sharing your passion with me and the power of we. I'm so grateful for you and I appreciate you. Thank you, Tracie.
Thanks, Nisa.
Thank you for listening to the Power of We podcast. And if you happen to be in Austin, we would love for you to join our fitness community. But if not, I would love for you to join me and our at-home fitness community. Most importantly, thank you for being part of the Power of We family.